We are obsessed with measuring progress, with quantifying progress. Absolutely obsessed with it. And this phrase here, sometimes progress is simply about consolidation, which is, comes out of the Assessment Commission report, is absolutely brilliant, and it's my favourite sentence in the entire report, but it really does present some challenges in terms of measuring progress in the way we're used to, which is through coverage of the curriculum. Because how do we measure progress when they're not actually covering more stuff? They're just consolidating and deepening their understanding of things that they've done. And that becomes quite problematic. So then we start coming up with all these weird metrics and adjustment factors and depth ratings and all these sorts of things. Think, who is it for? Why? Why do we do it? Is it meaningful? Is it accurate? Does it tell us anything? Who's it for? So obviously, to illustrate this, I've got a picture of a town square in Belgium. Okay? Can data be a threat? That's the point of this. Here is a square. I think it's in Belgium. I really should find out. I'm going to assume it is. Okay, and this is no ordinary square because there are lots of things missing. Now, this is a concept of shared space in the urban environment, which is becoming increasingly popular. As you all note, there are no real crossings, there are no curbs, there are no stop signs, there are no go signs or speed signs or traffic lights or roundabouts and all those sorts of things. They got rid of it all. The street furniture is gone. All the things that we put in place to restrict us, control us, to guide us, to ensure that we do what we're supposed to do, they got rid of it all. And of course what they found was that people drove better, they were more attentive, there were less accidents. Well, hang on, you take away all the stuff that's supposed to keep us safe, and people are even safer. So there is an example of where sometimes, I'm not sure it would work on a motorway, fair enough, maybe it would. Maybe we'll just got to drive really slowly and be all terrified. But there is an example of where information is actually having an adverse effect. We intend it, we put it in place for an intended purpose, and it has the opposite effect. We take it away, and things improve. We collect a massive amount of data. We measure everything in schools. We are told we have to measure progress every 6 weeks, and God forbid, if you're in requires improvement, this person comes in sometimes and may say, how much progress have children made since the last visit? And they're expecting points, often. Okay? So can data be a threat? And I want to just mull that over. But we have to measure progress right. So that is the question I get asked a lot. We have to measure progress, don't we? Well, no, we don't really have to measure progress. Now, the DFE have their progress measures, and they're not going anywhere. The value-added measures aren't going anywhere. FFT have got their VA measures. They've got CVA, which is great. I like contextual value-added. They're not going anywhere, and we can't replicate those because that's a very complex thing that requires national benchmarking. You need access to the entire national pupil database. It's not something you can easily predict in advance. That stuff's not going anywhere. So we try and fudge it. We try and make up our own progress measures in our tracking systems, in our spreadsheets, and it's a very, very difficult thing to do. We have to measure progress right. No, you have to show progress. You have to demonstrate the progress. But as we've already heard today, the best way to demonstrate progress is through pupils' work. The proof is in the books. It's in the work that children do. Numbers in a tracking system just prove that someone has entered some numbers in a tracking system. And people who scrutinise school performance, I hope, they're getting better at this because you can start to cross-reference between what a tracking system says and what the books actually say. And you go, well, you've said this child is secure, and I'm just not sure. That's what we should be doing. We shouldn't be relying on data. The Ofsted handbook says that Ofsted inspectors will use whatever system, whatever data, whatever approach you choose to use to monitor and track the progress of pupils in your school. Monitor and track. Not quantify, not measure, monitor and track. Those have different meanings. When you're monitoring something, you're not necessarily measuring the distance travelled. You're watching it happen. Another statement from the Assessment Commission report. Tracking software, which is being used widely as a tool for measuring progress with levels, cannot and should not be adapted to assess understanding of a curriculum that recognises depth and breadth of understanding as of equal value to linear progression. Most of the systems we use have existed for a long time. Now, a lot of companies have gone to great lengths to rebuild their systems so that they work with this new curriculum, and I know they've done that, and I applaud them for doing that, but some companies and some systems haven't had that level of redevelopment. They are levels, still reproducing levels, but by another name. Almost like they got the Tipp-Ex out. Call them something else, and I hope they don't notice. Linear progression is a fallacy. Our entire system of accountability has been built around a fallacy that all children follow this universal kind of golden gradient. Education Data Lab, the research group within FFT, did a fantastic bit of analysis on this, and they found that only 1 in 10 children actually follow that prescribed path from foundation stage to key stage 4. And they had this great sentence in that report: more children get to the right place the wrong way. Children do not do that, they do that. Yet we build our entire systems around this because it's easy and it's neat and it's simple to understand. A nice, neat, linear scale. And sometimes, tail wagging the dog, we start with a metric. We think, what's the most important thing in a system? Well, the most important thing is you start from your curriculum and you work up. The needs of your teachers and your pupils, and you work up. Your approach to assessment, and you work up. But all too often, let's start with the number 6 and work back, because we've got 6 assessment points. We need a progress measure, and we'll bodge everything, we'll shoehorn everything into this. We'll chop the curriculum up into equal units of equal value, and we'll shoehorn it all into this progress measure. Who is it for? Why? What is the purpose of this progress measure? And are there any dangers to it? Are there any risks to having this linear-based progress metric? This is what we often ended up with. These are the sort of things that we've seen time and time again in tracking systems. Not all tracking systems. There's some great tracking systems out there. This sort of thing is sort of endemic, you know. And in spreadsheets, emerging, developing, secure. Now, if emerging, developing, secure was applied properly, you'd have emerging, developing, secure children at any point. If it reflected their security, their competence, their ability in what has been taught so far. I have taught this much. Forget what I haven't taught. I plan to cover all that, but let's put that to, I've covered this much. How secure are my children? Then if you said, I've got some emerging children, I've got some developing children, I've got some secure children, that would make sense. But it's not. It's often this. When they've achieved between 1 and 33% of the objectives, they're emerging. They're all emerging in the first term. Come back after Christmas, they should all be developing. So when I had a child that had achieved 27% of the objectives on the 30th of December, that was okay. 1st of January, 27% objectives, that's below age-related expectations now. That stuff happens. And then you've got this 4, 5, 6, 3 points a year. You've got expected rate of progress. Of course, if you are monitoring progress over 6 times a year, you would have emerging plus, developing plus, and secure plus. And you'd have 6 points a year. Maybe the 6th point would be reserved for mastery. That happens. Or maybe you've got some additional depth thing which adjusts this point score to give them a little boost because you've suddenly realised, hang on a minute, we forgot the depth thing. If we stick with this, and you've got a child who comes in at age-related expectations and then finishes, they've only made expected progress. How do they make better than expected progress? I need to push them on into the next year's curriculum, the next year's content, but I can't do that. So I need some kind of weird adjusting factor in there. Let's put that in, that no one can understand. I've had conversations with head teachers where I remember saying, if I had an out-of-body experience now, or I was an alien listening in, no one would understand this. Try and explain it to a parent. Oh yeah, so if they've made the 3 points, but if they have done these things and you've ticked these boxes, then they get this additional one that multiplies that by 0.75, and then they, what? It's nuts. Why? Who's it for? Why do you do it? This can encourage pace at the expense of depth. Because you end up chasing numbers. And you end up with a system that is at odds with children's learning. It's lying to you. So it might give you a nice rose-tinted view, but you want the warts and all. Healthy system for me is a system where numbers go down as well as up. But I know that's a dirty word. You know, what? Numbers going down? No. But children learn stuff, and then more stuff is introduced, and then they don't understand stuff, and then they understand stuff again, and it's all over the place. That's real. But it doesn't fit with these neat metrics. Neat stuff works in spreadsheets, but all that complicated stuff, that's going to require some serious brain power. That's going to require some serious supercomputage. So progress is many things. Progress is catching up. We like the catching up ones because they make extensive coverage of the curriculum. They were working in year 2 last year, and now they're working in year 5. It's amazing. And they've made 17 points of progress. Yes. Okay, so catching up is good. We like catching up. Filling gaps, well, that's not quite so good, is it? So you're working within the Year 4 curriculum, but you're still trying to plug a few gaps. That doesn't really get recognised. That's no good. That's not progress. That doesn't work. Deepening understanding, because they're capped, aren't they? They're not going to go extend into the Year 5 curriculum. So therefore, we need something additional, some way of trying to capture that. Overcoming barriers. Those children who've got profound special needs, they've got special needs, they're never going to catch up necessarily. They're always going to be covering less of the curriculum or working at a lower, I always said level. But they overcome significant barriers to learning. Why can't all these children be making great progress? But they don't on the systems that we use often. Can all of that really be expressed on a simple linear point scale? No. And how do we define expected and more than expected progress? There is no such thing. At least with value added, actually, it's not really a linear model. There are different expectations for children. They're not called expectations, estimates, benchmarks for children depending on their start point. Contextualise it, it's even better. Right, so obviously here is a picture of Reinhold Messner standing on Everest in 1980. Prior to Reinhold Messner's ascent of Everest in 1980, the received wisdom was that these mountains, these great mountains, could only be climbed in siege style. Hundreds of porters, loads of Sherpas, multiple teams of climbers leapfrogging each other, fixing lines up the mountain, establishing camps higher and higher up, stocked with gas cylinders and food and supplies. All these fixed lines, and it would take weeks and weeks and weeks to climb them. Messner, having climbed the mountain with his mate as part of a big expedition in 1978, without oxygen, first man to do it, him and Peter Habeler, said, I'm going to come back and I'm going to climb it without oxygen in alpine style. Leave only footprints. Lightweight, high and fast. They said, you're mental. You'll die. There's absolutely no way you can do this. But he realised that there was a logistical problem with the way that mountains were climbed. The reason why they took so long is because they had so much equipment. And they needed all that equipment because they had so many people. It was this self-fulfilling kind of cycle they got into. And he had this philosophy that the less he carried, the faster he'd move. And the faster he moved, the less he'd need to carry. He was fit, mind. So these mountains would take weeks to climb. They said, if you do this, you'll die. It's suicide. He was up and down from his base camp in 3 days. He just realised we carry too much stuff. And that stuff is a distraction at best. It becomes a burden. It weighs us down. We don't need it. It's unnecessary. A lot of the stuff we have that we think is necessary to do our job isn't. Often, it can actually have the opposite effect. It can slow us down. All those reports that you spend all your half terms running and printing out and putting into folders, that really don't tell you anything. It's a waste of time. A lot of it is a waste of time. And I know you think, but my governors. Your governors have to learn that things have changed. Everyone's tracking system has got something like this. You've got a grid, you've got your objectives, you've got the names of your children, and you're just stating the degree to which children understand things. That's fit for purpose. That's great. That's where the detail is, the granular detail in your system. That's the important bit. Enables you to instantly spot gaps in children's learning. I can see the reds, I can see the yellows, I can see the greens, I can see the blues. Some kind of overall assessment to say whether they're secure or not. Some other metrics to show what percentage of objectives they've achieved. And in terms of measuring progress, you might look at the percentage of objectives they've achieved. I like the idea of gaps, actually. What have I taught so far? How many of those objectives are they securing? Now, what you would hope is at any point in the year, children will be at 100%. They'll get everything, but of course that's not reality. So you could measure progress in terms of gaps closed. Just simple stuff like that. Or percentage of children that are secure or above. Back at the beginning of the year, this was the percentage of children that were secure or above. When they came into the year, 72% of them. Go forward 6 months. Now it's 82%, 80%, whatever. I'm not going to try and put a number on that distance travelled, but I'm going to say that they are making progress. They've improved. Keep track of gaps in pupils' learning. That's where the detail is that's the important bit. That's the really nitty-gritty. That's the stuff you need. And if you concentrate on that, then children make progress. Maybe you can't stamp a number on how much progress they've made, but that's the bit that ensures they make progress, is tracking those gaps and responding to those gaps and planning accordingly. Do not recreate levels. Those emerging, developing, secure things that link to coverage of the curriculum with their associated point scores, they are levels. They are levels. Avoid points-based progress measures. Well, that goes with the levels. Tests. Tests. Tests are a better way of measuring progress. Remember, progress is not linear. Don't compromise your approach. Don't ditch those principles just for the sake of fitting in with the needs of a spreadsheet or a tracking system. Go, yeah, I know, but we need a progress measure. Bad data is not better than no data at all. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. Don't set some kind of ridiculous measure and then find that no children meet it. Don't go and set some crazy metric that doesn't work. And it comes back to haunt you.